very beautiful moment in time,
Yes.
and definitely always precious moments, I call them, and precious moments with you, Vivienne. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to just, yeah,
Yeah.
share in these moments with you.
In these moments, I know we could go for hours, so we'll try to, tame it as much as possible. But before we get into the deep dive, let's kind of get started with having our audience know a little bit more about you and your background so we can kind of build a context around this.
Okay, well, um, I know that I could go for days and sharing um, how I see my journey, but I will say that in this moment right now, my life has been one where it's been a very amazing experience of awakening and awareness. And so okay, let's say in terms of the tangible things that I've been doing to make a living and, over the course of my life, my work has been centered mostly around um, care. And so I will say I'm a person of care in a sense, and has come with, under the guise of education. So I've worked as as an instructor, a media arts instructor for students, high school mostly, in the past. That was where I was actually working K through 12 at times with the Arts Council um, here in Ohio. And then when I moved to Colorado, I started teaching media arts in charter school. And and that's where, for me as a filmmaker, which I used to define myself as. Now I kind of see myself as a documentarian, a memory keeper. I like to share stories, other people's stories especially, and as well as mine, and capture those precious moments along the way, those stories along the way, including my family stuff. So I used to do that with young people, tapping into their worlds and digging into their, like, supporting them and digging into their life experiences, and their stories, and I took time to just support and care for them in that way. Then I went into um, wellness in a sense of holistic support, for um, um, the other side of me, which is I love working with the elders. And so I started going into massage and wellness support for um, our elders and medically fragile population. And actually that was just inspired by working with young people and taking them into senior living communities, which I used to volunteer for, a program that we would do that, go in and touch the lives of our elders through story, and take time to sit with them and capture stories. So I used to think, okay, what it would be like to just touch, literally touch hands and connect that way. And I wanted to teach my young people that. Um, and so anyway, I went into the massage, and it just kind of evolved from there, and it became more and more about just touching lives, caring for people in various ways, supporting them, holding space, I call it. So I had a massage program, and I also, would I would go into communities and just be present, and share in precious moments with my elders, like a companion of sorts. I
Mhm.
did that, and I still do that. And the biggest part of my life that just recently I experienced that has evolved, is caring for my parents. I came back home from Colorado to care for my parents, and went through a tremendous experience with them. And my dad is still with us. My mother recently transitioned, and it was amazing experience. The journey, now that I can look back on it, and as painful as it appeared to be, it gifted me in many, many ways. It showed me, it reflected some things within me that I needed to, that I chose to tap in. My deeper soul self was awakened.
Transformational. It
Yes,
was
it was awakened.
transformational, right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
transformative.
So,
A
you
lot
know,
of healing.
what's that?
Lots of healing.
Lots of healing. I like for us to maybe go a little deeper on that, if you're okay with it, of course. When we cover healing and being transformative, because I think all of us, we come to realize, how much of our childhood, the experiences from our childhood still impacts us subconsciously, you know, subconsciously with the decisions we make today as adults. We don't really realize how some of those decisions we make today is deeply rooted from, maybe some things that happened when we were young, or babies, or toddlers, or even, just young in general. And to be able to connect the two dots and then fully understand and have more awareness, to understand where it's all coming from, whether if we need healing or we need to just come to some form of a realization, can make such an impact in our current, you know, situation,
No
right?
question. No
Hmm.
question. Um, I actually find that that's where the story aspect comes in for me. And, I used to think that um, Western psychology and, that whole practice of going in and sitting with a therapist, which I did that. I went through a season in my life where I sought out all kinds of therapists who I thought had the answer and could, give me some understanding of who I am. And I would just hop from one person to the next, never really finding receiving that clarity, until I started to explore in a way where it took me into that place of story, and and digging into my world of, or even asking my family members, um you know things that I could just like play around with and see what that all meant for me. It was like, going into a sandbox and just kind of like digging in and just playing with this, and taking all this sand and just building something from it. And if that make let's see, I'm trying to come up with an analogy, but it was like I was really determined to know myself through these stories. And not that I needed to get someone else to tell me who I was through that story, but it was the way that it was like pulling pieces of me together, like a quilt, like aspects of my life. And that's when I started to pull it all together, and explore that, gently, just gently and lovingly, but yet sometimes painfully. It was not always easy to to explore um the my inner child self. I was afraid of a lot of those memories, and I actually shut them down for years. I used to didn't even remember. I used to just literally like shut myself down, and almost feel like that part of me never existed. I used to say to my friends, even, or people who had memories that I didn't, where was I at? Was I a part of that
Right.
moment? And
They
they're
have
like,
your reunions and they're talking about, hey, remember this? And you're like,
yeah,
no, not really.
no, I did not. And I really didn't want to always. And
Right.
there's part of me that says, it's, yeah, there's one moment where, the like the recovery work that people do, and I respect when people do recovery work and things like that, and they delve into their pains and their, those old memories, and excavate. But I think that at some point when you bring it up, then there's that the other side, which is the wellness side of me, the holistic side, is how do you find ways to release it? How
Mhm.
do you take that in that information, those memories, and churn them into something that's either going to serve your highest good, or um or just kind of empty you, so that you can, anew yourself and feel lighter, and yeah, and then you will of course anew yourself from that point too. So
Mhm.
people play with this stuff, but you got to play with it, because that's why I teach young when I was teaching young folks, it was like, turn it into a story, play with it, turn it into something that's going to inspire others.
Mhm.
It inspires you, inspires others. And or the other side is, acknowledge it and then get rid of it.
Mhm.
If it doesn't serve your well-being or anyone else's, let it go.
Right. Not be attached to that
Not
story.
be attached. Yes.
So, since this conversation is rooted from our practice of meditation, I want to relate all this to the semblance of meditation. So, how has meditation helped you in your life in fully realizing where you are, where you came from emotionally, and where you want to take your life?
Mm. Well, let's see. My practice has been sporadic throughout my adulthood, and I'm so appreciating that there were various energies, people in my life that have shown up on the planet to support me with that, or to bring that to awareness for me,
Hmm.
the importance of it. Like when I was younger, well, in my college years, but I really didn't appreciate the value of meditation until I started getting, much older, and in terms of the age older. And I think it was probably when my son was young, I started to open up some doors, because again, I was going down this route of, you know, psychotherapy, and looking for the answers outside of me, you know. And I thought that that was where someone could just basically analyze all the stuff in me and help me to construct it. And when in fact it was when I started to I actually found I think it was a Shambhala um um therapist. She was a psychologist, but she was also a practitioner of Shambhala and meditation, and she would provide me with these tools and of meditation during our sessions. And that was when I started to get the value of going inside of myself and
I'm going to
exploring.
interrupt. So tell me, let's pause and let's go into what Shambhala practice is like. What is that like? What is that?
Well, now, I mean, it's an aspect of Buddhism that but it's more of the westernized, I guess. And I'm always mispronouncing his name, Shogrum Rinpoche.
Yes.
Shog- yes, he
Uh-huh.
started the Shambhala school or practice, and or was instrumental in it, and they brought it to the States, and that was how they introduced, you know um, meditation, um, from that perspective, to a lot of Westerners, especially in this region, North America. And so and it's more um, it's secular. It's not secular. I get it confused. It's not a part of the religion of
Secular.
Buddhism.
Hmm.
So so it gives you way more room to just explore without the restrictions of the Buddhist, um, the whole, like, I mean, Buddhism goes way, way back. And so some people weren't always comfortable with just delving into the theologies of
Hmm.
Buddhism, the doctrines, but the Dharma. but they were open to the Shambhala. So the Shambhala was, there's all, they definitely used some of the similar tools of meditation, where you're sitting and in a more formal setting.
Mhm.
And I never got to go, even when I was in Colorado, I never got to go to the Shambhala um, Center, which was north of Denver. And I had always wanted to go, but again, I was introduced to some various people, and even in here in Cleveland, I got introduced, because that's how I found out about it. There was a small group of people that were practicing, and I would go and just sit with them, and started to absorb this um, this kind of experience where I had to sit in my discomfort and become more, I don't know, emptied out from, like, and I didn't understand that for years, and I'm still working with that, because I've explored all kinds of meditations throughout the years since. And as a matter of fact, 3 years ago, I got introduced to transcendental meditation.
Mhm.
Um, and I appreciate all various forms. And I always tell people that, and I know I kind of steered, I'm a stream of consciousness
Come
person.
back. Yeah.
So, but I always say to people who say, oh, I don't know how to meditate and blah, blah, blah. And what are you kind of meditation? Da, da. And I say, it's just like, it's like the water is just such a symbolic, um, it gives you so many ways of looking at things. And I think it's great symbolism when you think about tributaries, and you think about all the little tributaries that lead to the big ocean, the sea. Well, that's with meditation. It's, there's all these different tributaries, just like the path of life. I mean, life there's so many different ways to experience life. And it's just how you choose to experience life. And so it's like, what supports your well-being in this moment for you in terms of a meditation practice? Would you rather sit and create something more formal with mantras and da 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 da, or listen to a guided meditation, or walk and and be present, mindfulness practice, and there's all sorts of meditation practices. I mean, people don't necessarily have to sit and be uncomfortable. Even
Right.
you know
In a
you
lotus position.
yeah,
Exactly.
with
I mean,
yoga. And I got into yoga too, and that was another way that it's another avenue. So
yeah. The when you distill the meanings of meditation, it really comes down to being intentional with your thought, because on a daily basis, our attention is typically responsive as in we are reacting most of the time. An
yes.
example, if the phone rings, we answer like a robot, right? We automatically answer the phone, or our smartphones now, or we constantly check our emails. In fact, we anticipate that we'll get an email or a text of some sort, and we're waiting, we're on standby. Our attention is always on standby. Or we're listening to, or we're constantly distracted, are mentally distracted, or looking for some form of distraction. But the state of meditation is where you're intentionally wanting to be focused on something. So that's a very, it's a difficult task in the modern times, because we're usually on standby to react, to respond to something, right? In fact, we're more comfortable with that than choosing to think about what we really want to think about. Even work to me, in my
Absolutely.
opinion, is we're reacting because we're waiting for an email, we're waiting for an instruction, we're waiting to respond to an action that's supposed to be assigned to you, you know? So being an
Yeah.
active participant in this very moment, it takes time, to become fully aware that we're supposed to be an active participant, as we call it, be the creator of your life, is
Mhm.
very hard. It sounds easy because you think that's common sense, but it really isn't when the responsibility is kind of like thrown at you, or it's given to you and you're like, really? I have the liberty, and realize it, you're like, I don't know what to do with it, I don't know what to do with this responsibility that I now own. So anyway, back to you. So
Exactly. I
yeah.
like that word. And that's a big one. The responsibility
Mhm.
is huge for me too. That's one of the words that I'm honoring these days more and more. And it's about personal responsibility. Because I will say sometimes when you say responsibility, then people think, oh, I have to be responsible for somebody else and blah, 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 blah. No, I'm talking about for you. I'm
Oh,
responsible for me. And so I go back something you said, that whole external world we're so focused on, um, and it's easy. This is what we've been programmed. We've been conditioned this way, right? And since we were babies, and so we focus on the external stimuli. It's the five senses that are like constantly and distracting us, distracting us, and it's what some will now use the word Maya, the illusion. We're focused on this, what appears to be real, but they will now we know that it's more of an illusion, and it's what we're creating from that is most important. But yes, the thing that I think has made modern humankind so much more open to exploring meditation is because of this. People are finding that they're just freaking tired of being overwhelmed by all this shit, right? They're just tired, and I know the feeling. And
yeah.
it's like so much distraction, so much overwhelm, like focus on me, focus on this out there. And sometimes I think there's something within us that just, and it's sadly enough, it sometimes it hits us when we're in a very uncomfortable, suffering kind of way, where we just say, stop it, I need to go inside. I need to just, I got to find a way. And that sometimes triggers us back to a place where we want to know thyself. It's like we want to take that responsibility for, like, owning our shit. Like, okay, I've been putting all this attention out there, and it's not even helping other people, because what happens is all of that energy is so, and I can relate to this because as a caregiver, I thought I had it all together, right? I thought that I was so, focused on, but I was so distracted in all of the emotional distress of it, and all of that heightened, energy, the day-to-day mechanical lifestyle that
Ooh,
it
that's so deep. I'm gonna go deeper on that one.
well, you want to add to it?
I'm
Yeah.
kidding. Because yeah, I think most of us suffer from that. When we're so busy, we think when we're busy, we're like busy bodies.
Hmm.
In that, whether we're putting 70 hours a week at work, or we're volunteering 70 hours a day in other activities, we think we are taking on ownership and responsibility. But like you said, that could be a form of distraction we're creating to completely walk past our own, the issues that we've cautiously, carefully bottled up, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's go a little deeper on that.
Well, that's exactly going back to some of when you were asking about the memories of, back when we were younger. I mean, we shut down we compartmentalize so much of our life, right, over the years, because we don't want to deal with those things. And those are things that are very much paining us. They're hurting us. We've internalized them. And as a matter of fact, they affect our bodies, which our bodies are I've come to understand more than anything, and I love my body.
Oh,
Just I just say thank you,
great.
body.
Oh, I love it.
It's, it has taught so much to respect and honor what it's communicating to me, because it's only responding to my reactions to this external world. And so when I projecting all these thoughts that are like blaming or hurt, wanting to be angry at this or frustrated or not even dealing with my stuff, my shit. When I'm not dealing with it, guess what? My body knows it. And it's like, okay, you may not want to deal with it, but guess what? I'm compartmentalize it inside of me. I'm going to put it in me and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. And you're going to feel it in some way or another because it's going to have to manifest itself. It will show up. And so those things that I shut down and don't want to deal with, oh my gosh, if I don't turn that attention inward and take responsibility, which is for my well-being, then my body will in fact show me a whole other side of things that I'm going to have to face at some point because I will have no choice, choice whatsoever.
The body will surrender.
It will surrender.
Illness or something. It's going to shout and the world will crumble because the body can no longer possess all of that pain or trauma, right? Exactly. And why does it have to be negative? It's usually negative, isn't it? Because when it's positive, it's your body responds differently versus a negative situation, a negative emotion, anger, unforgiveness, resentment, to name a few. The chemicals get stored in the body, right? And over time starts tearing up your organs and the makeup of the body, right? So let's talk about that, because I think that's so true. A lot of people will get sick and it takes years to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of the illness building up, and the negative emotions build and build and build until it falls apart, until you fall apart, until the body can no longer handle all that amount of stress.
Exactly.
But how should a person handle the negative emotion, whether it's stored or it's happening in the moment? Michelle, how does a person, once they become aware, oh, you know what, this is not a good feeling that I'm having, how do they deal with that emotion?
Well, again, going back to, and you just said another word that's very powerful for me, and this is going back to the meditation practice, is awareness. That's the first and foremost. That's so important. It's vital, that awareness. And so oftentimes, because of the distractions in our life, we're not able to see through that veil. We can't, it's like the clouds have been just all around us and we can't see beyond those clouds, which if you just go up and a little further in the airplane, wow, you break through and it's like, there's a sun and there's like a clear sky. And it's so, wow. And that could happen within us through the practice of meditation, and clearing out, you kind of start to.
Yeah. Or it becomes part of our identity, right? The pain or the resentment.
Oh, absolutely.
That feeling becomes part of our identity, because I used to be that person where, so the world knows I'm divorced, and I used to tell myself, oh, there's no way I'm going to forgive my ex-husband. There's just no way. Let's not even go there, because I'm not even going to entertain that thought, but I know better now. But that concept of I'm not going to even entertain the idea of forgiving my ex-husband is because I wanted to stay angry. I felt like I was a stronger person by saying, no, I'm not going to forgive him for what he did. I'm not going to forgive him. And that became a part of who I was or who I am. Right. So if someone said, is he forgivable? And I proudly say, oh, of course not. Why would I forgive him? That kind of identity building can eventually break you down. Right. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why it's hard to let go. Right.
Absolutely. It's our story.
It's a story.
And guess what? It feeds us. And sometimes it gets us through the moments where we want attention or something and I can relate to this too, I'm like, I gotta have a story that's gonna draw people to me and make them feel for me. And we are all part of this suffering together, all these different people who have gone through divorces together. We can lean on each other and cry and
Oh,
misery and
you are.
share. Oh, my divorce was bigger than yours. Let me tell you about mine, girl. You don't understand my divorce.
You are so right.
So who wants to let that go?
That
That's some good shit, right? You want to hold on to that good shit because
That's right.
it gets you attention. It
Mhm.
gets you what it feeds us. Now, I mean, again, this is where I say if you're going to create from it, this is what I'm learning. You know, that's one thing. Create a book, write a book about it, write something about it, do something with it. Go out and talk to people about, young people or, mentor, young couples or whatever. You know what I'm saying? If you want to play with that. But if I realized when I was dwelling in this all the time in this misery and making it who I am, I was like, I lost myself. I was not who I was. And I was starting to, again, see how much it was impacting my overall well-being. It was in fact, to me, um, it was stifling me, it was suffocating me. And I was just like, I was not loving myself. And going to that other word, forgiveness, oh my goodness, I really had to start to step up and to really, it's like responsibility. If you got to turn that back to you, right? Well, same with forgiveness. You can't forgive anyone until you forgive yourself, you know? I mean, that was the biggest part for me. I know in my journey with whether it was in my relationships, you know, or in my,
Or mistakes, just general honest
yeah,
mistakes, you know.
just in life, yeah, just in life, period, just I was so hard on myself, and I just did not, I wasn't gentle, I wasn't loving up on me and saying, Michelle, I forgive you. you know I just I was, I did not, I didn't know how to do that, and it took me going through my spiritual practice, which is, what my awakening of sorts, where and I've taken on various tools to support me. But I find that, and meditation is a big part of that. It's the bringing it up and facing that part of me, and it's even sometimes, Vivienne, looking in the mirror. I mean, I love Louise Hay, you know, and Louise Hay would always talk about, she was all into the affirmations, and I could get with some affirmations, but it's the subconscious that has to be, you gotta really work with that old shit, like it's old. And I say shit as an acronym too. It's stuff held inside, it's toxic. That's shit.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna
Yes.
borrow it. That's awesome. Yeah.
But it is toxic. And so, it's stuff that it's the subconscious holding on to all these old programs, belief systems, conditions that we've had throughout the years that we've taken on from everybody and everything. And so you can put a Band-Aid over with an affirmation and say, oh, I'm all good. And I used to do that. I'm fine. I'm happy. And everybody be like, you're so fake. And I knew it. I was projecting that very thought, like, I am fake. I'm being fake because this is not really how I feel, right?
It's
Because
not.
I was miserable.
Yes,
I was not liking myself.
Yeah, deeply within you, you feel differently versus coming
Yes.
out of your mouth. And
Yes.
there's stuff in here that needed to be released.
Yeah. So guess what? Looking in the mirror, even like this, I had to get used to this idea of seeing myself and, whew, because all of that would come up and I'd have to face it. And I have to look myself in the eyes and say my truth. And my truth was that, yes, I really do love you, Michelle. I love you. I love God within you, because that is the greatest gift for me, that awareness that my higher power lives within me. And that's who I really got to give some big props to and say, I love you for Ho'oponopono, which I love too. I always use that. I'm like, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
You know,
And
I
I'll say it
yep.
over and over and over because, and
Mhm.
I now I can look deeply in the mirror, and I mean, look in the mirror deep in my eyes and see the windows to the windows of my soul,
Yes.
and feel even when it's uncomfortable and it stirs my stomach up, I can say and breathe that this is my true self coming forward, and that it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, but it's beautiful. It's healing for me. It's acknowledging,
Mhm.
that yes, I know that there's a lot that's gone on in my life but these mistakes were the greatest gifts. They were the blessings and
Yes.
lessons.
And just accepting yourself for who you are, good
Yeah.
and bad. And I
Oh,
remember following Louise Hay and then looking in the mirror and saying it, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is kind of awkward." I felt all uncomfortable. Like
I know.
I hope no one can. I'm the only one in the house, and I'm like, I hope no one can see me doing this.
Because you feel so naked, so bare. And
Yeah,
that's the whole point. You're
right,
butt bare,
right.
bare butt bare. You're just
Exposed,
vulnerable. Yeah, you're vulnerable.
vulnerable.
And
Even
that is
by yourself, you still feel that way. And so, if anyone out there feels awkward saying it, that just means you have work to do. That's a clear sign you have work to do. We've all been there.
yes, and still can go there, honey. I'm telling you,
It's
there's like moments where we forget.
it's not about vanity because we can pass the mirror at the
No.
mall, and go, oh, it's not
Yeah.
that at all. It's like just being able to look behind the eyes, behind the mirror. Who is standing in front of the mirror and understanding the real identity is the
Yes.
work. So
It's the deeper
yeah, if
soul
anyone's
self.
awkward, feeling awkward about that, it's like you have work to do. You Yeah.
Absolutely. I used to think I was like, oh my gosh, go ahead on, Louise, if you can do it. But I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
And I remember doing an exercise with some girlfriends, and we tried it together, and it was just we laughed because it was just like little girls. We were like, this is just so and it was so funny because it's awkward. Nobody shows. It's really funny because these days you got a phone, and everybody's like selfieing
Yeah.
that, right? We can
Yeah.
do all of that, but yet standing in the mirror and telling yourself, "I love you," and I'm saying not in a like, "Oh, I love you, girl."
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm saying like the difference when you really look into the depth of who we are and who you are, and you see something that is a little scary actually, because it does strip you down. It makes you feel, it's like, this is where, I mean, my other work is in supporting people through transition, and I became a sacred passage doula years ago, which I haven't practiced that in as much, but I worked in hospice and watched people, was present with people as they were transitioning and leaving their bodies. Um, and they blessed me with so much of a gift to see that process. But I also was my point is, what was my point? So I was really
Feeling
drawn to
vulnerable
this.
in front of a mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, I was drawn to it because it was like an aspect of death. And every day, we every breath we take actually in and out is a form of life and death, right?
Mhm.
And it's a very uncomfortable thought, because when you say the D word, it's like scary to people, right? And I get it. But this is where I'm also exploring this on another level, because I definitely feel that fear, facing our greatest fears, which is death, um, it can be our greatest freedom. It can be our greatest healing. And I have so much that I could share around a lot of this. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to write a book at some point, because it really helps me to put this in perspective. But when you look in the mirror and see that part of yourself, and I think aging makes it even scary, because then you start looking at, I'm getting older, or oh, I see her, oh, and that means I'm not immortal. Oh my gosh. And it scares you. You know, you're thinking um, of all of the things that could happen, you know, and it's scary for us to see ourselves in that total bare and it's like being it's kind of the opposite of being a newborn babe, you know, but it's actually really being a newborn babe because you're totally raw, and it's death can put you into that same experience. It's just the other side of it. It's just the flip coin of it, you
Mhm.
know. And yet it is the most complex to talk about. You know, we can all praise birth and be you know, the newborn baby, but when it comes to someone leaving their body, and you know, you're celebrating that new beginning, it's not as easy to talk about. It's not, you don't want to face, it's hard to face, it's hard to to understand. And I think that's what happens when we go inside of our eye, like really look at ourselves and
Yeah, I
get
really
that.
feel that we can have a whole separate segment on death, because like personally for me, death is just a transition. It's the death of the physical body, but not the death of the spirit. And our whole identity generally is tight. Our entire awareness, worldly awareness, is the body. And so if we think all we are is the body, then the death is scary, because it's like it's the end, but it's the end of the body. But if you start living through the spirit and recognize that the spirit is eternal, then you celebrate the transition, because you're going from one body to a brand new body, or you know, a new life, new form of
Yes.
life. So it's
And
not
it's
as scary. It's not as scary.
absolutely, and I will say, I will add to that, and I agree. And it's all, everyone has their tradition around that, and
Yeah,
that's not to discount how
true,
you see it on a belief system. And
true.
I never, you know, say someone's belief system is right or wrong, because there's no right or wrong.
We don't know.
But I go back to I go back to the mirror part, and I think what you just said was, you know, and it is so about that. Um, oh gosh, how did you put it? It's like when we're the whole idea of transition. Oh, being the body, we're not our body. Well, we're also not who we think we are not Michelle.
Right.
Okay, we're not. I am not this little I. I'm not that, right? And and all of that really can get wiped out in no time. And actually, that's where meditation also makes the difference. I actually really um, love and respect this man Osho.
Yeah.
He just cracks me up because he really does take you into those places of discomfort when it comes to um, facing those very things. The fact that we are not who we think we are, and you know, um, and
Mhm.
becoming totally empty,
Yeah.
and totally, again, like when you see into the depth of emptiness, you it's fearful. It's like the black hole. Like you think of the black hole as nothing, but really it's so much more than we can even imagine. But we can't imagine it. We
Yeah.
can't imagine death, you know, because that's what the black hole seems like to most people. Like, oh my gosh, it's just, I don't
Oh
know,
no. Yeah.
scary, you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing, when you're looking in the mirror, that's what my point was, you know, it's taking you to that bare minimal, like to like, you're not the body, you're not the persona, you're not the, you know, you're no thing.
That's
You're
right. You're
nothing.
definitely.
You're no thing. And but yet you're everything and all that is.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. And
Yes.
it's that dichotomy. It's that, you know, that paradox. And it's a beautiful thing, but we've been so indoctrinated into fearing that other side, of ourselves. And again, meditation, I think, is the train right now that's taking us to some of those places where we can tap into the deeper self.
Right. And not so focused on the world outside of us, the external world.
And in fact, actually, it gives you more freedom to enjoy that external world, because then we don't take it so personally. We don't react and respond and it's crazy. That person did this to me. Or da 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 da. Or you know. And so we lose. It's like it almost like it softens, or what's the other word? It just kind of takes things down. It just takes the edge off it. It just, yeah, it
accelerator. Yeah.
It just takes when you demystify all of that, that's the word. I think demystify.
Yeah.
It takes it just takes it down a notch, and you can enjoy life. And that's where I'm working. That's the part that I'm like, I don't need to take all this so crazy serious. I was so caught up, right? I'm thinking I was just super
caught up. Me too.
Yeah.
So, but I want to go to, because I know a lot of people, including myself, I've suffered that fear, like that deepest fear from change. Like I was aware, like I know I need to do this work to get to the other side, but because I wasn't fully confident of the work or the level of responsibility that I needed to take on with myself, I avoided it. I just knew there was a lot of work, but God knows how much work, needed was, waiting for me. So I kind of avoided it or procrastinated from, again, distracted myself from actually doing the work. How did you deal with that fear of the unknown?
Oh boy.
Before you came to this side.
Well, and I'm still on both sides. Just remember.
I know, right? I dance.
I go this way. I go that way. Woo!
Work in progress.
I'm all over the place, but it's actually kind of fascinating now that I can look at it with the awareness.
Yeah.
Because the more I, become aware and demystify or soften it, or take that down some levels and not get so caught into it's like the fear of the unknown. Like I step into it now. Well, okay, it's funny because I had a couple of situations recently that easily I could have just like gone into my total drama, and I was starting to tell the story over and over, as a matter of fact, of this incident that had happened recently. And I even witnessing the incident, which was a direct, I wouldn't say attack, but it was something that came into my reality in the moment to test me, and it did some damage to one of my personal property. And I was like, why? What did I do to create this? Like I didn't even know why this situation happened. It was out of nowhere that someone did something that was pretty foul. And I could have totally reacted to it in a way that was I could have, and I'm not the person that gets like super angry. Like I can get angry, but I never was like that big, oh, I'm gonna fight, like beat this. Or even some people, like I told some people about what happened, and they were like, I wish I had a gun because I would have just shot. And I'm like, ooh, well, I'm glad that I don't. And what?
You're like, I'm not that angry.
No, but I know that some other person would have responded that way because it's a violation. It was a violation of personal property. Mm-hmm. And so, and it can also bring up a lot of fear, which it did in me, where I kept wondering, oh my gosh, am I like, is somebody after me, or somebody trying to hurt me? And is this going to keep happening? Like I couldn't even sleep for a minute because I got caught up in that that fear.
Mm.
And what I had to do was I had to work with being in that place of the unknown, not knowing what that was all about. For me, Vivian, it's about what I am learning is how to flip things. So I love the Tao, and I love yin yang. You know, I appreciate it. It teaches me, you know, the ebb and flow of life. It teaches
Mhm.
me that there's always two sides, but it's all one, right? It's
Mhm.
all connected. It's all one. And so this side that I could say is fear based, and it's like, you know, pretty heavy. If I look at it, if I see it from that perspective, you know, I could dwell in that, and I could get into misery and depression and walk around paranoid and
Mhm.
all of that, you know. And that's what happens to a lot of us, especially after trauma. I mean, we become, again, we feel that, in, you know,
That's part of our identity again.
yeah, and then we take it into ourselves and everything. Well, I was like, oh my gosh, because I know that there's that part of me that it doesn't serve that anymore. So I flip it and I turn it into love. And I say, well, what what if this situation was here? Maybe that this situation was like protecting me from something, you know, and it had to show up this way to to whatever, like this angel that it looked like they were doing some harm, but they were really doing good. You know,
Mhm.
they were really serving my well-being, my highest good. You know, what if I do those things because I'm a storyteller? What if, you know, and and then I turn it into that love, and because I flip it, I turn it into something that's going to, it's like the see the lemons, lemonades, the turn the lemons into the lemonade,
Yeah.
right? See the silver lining, you know.
You stepped
um,
outside of the box of a traditional method of thinking, right?
I have to.
Natural way would have been to react a certain way because you were able to create a story in a certain way, but you went outside of your traditional
The
way of
traditional
thinking.
narrative.
Mhm.
Yes. And that's how I tend to work. A lot of my family used to just, they laugh at me because I do crazy stuff like take my dad on an RV trip in the middle. Like I never knew how to drive a 30-foot RV, one. And then my dad is, you know, living with Alzheimer's, and he's got, you know, he's not like somebody that is used to this kind of travel anymore. And then I took my son with me, and we were on the road for over 2 weeks, traveling through 5 different states in this, you know, big RV, and had no idea what that was going to be like. But I did it, and everybody was freaking out because how dare you take your dad on? But in the end, we had the most amazing experience because, and we stepped into that unknown, trusting, trusting, and I flipped every little moment that would show up as a, you know, a negative that appeared to be a negative. I had to flip it so that I could stay present with, you know, this journey,
Mhm.
and not sink into the fears of what it, you know, like, oh my gosh, because I could say what if, and on the negative side, and it could have turned into a whole negative experience.
Mhm.
But the fact was, we got through storms, literally, and we got through sundowns with my dad, literally on the road. We got through moments where breakdowns. I mean, the RV had a couple of breakdowns. We had rented this RV, and I mean, we went through so many different, you know,
An adventure.
experiences.
Yeah, what an
It was quite
adventure.
an adventure, but that was the best gift for me because it showed me my ability to do that dance of, you know, the yin yang dance, and just kind of
Yeah,
flow with it, and let it
I
just
love that. Yeah,
carry me, you know.
yeah, I love it.
And it did.
Instead of being so rigid and going down a one particular path.
And
Fun.
expecting a
Mhm.
certain outcome, because if you live with that, oh my goodness, that rigidity,
Oh,
that way of thinking is going to really, you know, so it's, but and especially if, you know, you're, you know, if you're in the stance of I got to react and respond to this, and I'm gonna, ooh, it's gonna, you know, like road rage. Okay, really? I mean, it doesn't serve me to drive a 30 something foot RV. And so it happened too. These guys were, I was going slow, and these guys came by the van. They were driving off fast, and they were, and they put up their middle finger at me. And I looked, and I just smiled, and I put my pedal to the metal, and I was like, and I kept it going. And I truly had to not let myself go into a road rage. I couldn't do that in a 30-foot van, RV. But on top of it, it didn't serve any of my well-being or my dad's or my son's, and no one else around me. Because what in fact impacts me affects others. My reaction to things is going to impact everything around me, because again, it's that one, we're all connected, we're all interconnected. So it doesn't serve when people, want to go there and they think they're doing something to hurt you, when in fact they're hurting themselves just as much,
Exactly, just as much.
So
Or
yeah. Yeah. So thank you for allowing me to share that story. But yeah, these situations are truly about how you choose to see things. That's
So
what
that's the big secret, right? The big reveal
it's the awareness.
is awareness and having the courage. And it doesn't happen just one time.
No.
You don't have to go through this big epiphany one time. It could be small steps, small series of moments that you go through, and then eventually you look back and you realize the growth. Like I tell people, I'm a slow learner. And what I mean is, with all respect, I don't mean it in any derogatory way, but I took my time. I didn't need to have this burning bush moment like Moses, like, oh, like I saw
right.
Lightning and thunderstorm,
I get it.
Some moments that just hit me. It was just small steps, along the way, that little small ahas.
Yes, I'm a turtle too. I love that. And I like the scenic route, to be honest.
Hey, that's a great way to describe it. I took the scenic route.
Yeah, you take the scenic route too. I like that. So that's what it's about. We got to take that scenic route. For some of us, and it's okay. That's the journey. That's the point. That's why I say I go. It's not that I got the answer to all things and now I'm good. Right. No, my awareness keeps getting, I have to have experiences to show me
yes,
how I'm going to continue to react and respond. And sometimes I got it down, and sometimes it's like, I got to drive back. I got to.
I love it. I love this. This is an honest conversation, This is such an honest conversation.
Yeah, thank you. It's been so good for me because I needed this. Yeah, it's absolutely so critical. And I think I could go on and on with this stuff because it's so, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so, again, so pertinent to this day and age where a lot of people are feeling this. So, and they're looking for the tributary that works for them, of course, that's gonna guide them along to that place of self-awareness and transformation, and it's a beautiful season on the planet, to be honest. I actually think last year was a gift. And that's another thing. I flipped that one because I was like, really? Actually, this was like system upgrade year. You could choose to keep the old system or you can upgrade, and not to say that the old system doesn't work, because I honor the past. I do honor the old. I do believe, or I appreciate that the past teaches us. And that's why I say go into those memories. I value remembering,
mm-hmm.
but it has to serve me. And if it serves my highest good, if I can take those memories or that remembrance and churn it into, well, again, healthy body and mind, and turn it into creative, maybe work,
mm-hmm.
That supports, the higher good, the greater good of humankind. Like, okay, I can go and serve others through my stories, or support others with telling their stories.
Mm-hmm.
And getting that out, because we got so many people that just hold on to stuff that need to, like our elders who feel like nobody knows them because nobody's asked,
Mhm.
who am I? It's your legacy. And I value that stuff. But if it's trauma,
Mhm.
and if it's coming from a place of, and it's creating pain and hurt and constant like misery, that's when I say, just like I was starting at the beginning of our conversation, I think before you started recording, was it's like being on a boat and the water is just like flooding it, and you got to just start dumping that, because otherwise you're going to sink,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that part, those memories that are hurting us, that are harming us, that are creating, such despair and all that, it's also probably not serving our future generations. That's the part, because it's cellular. It's like you take trauma and you can even infuse it into your children. Your trauma can be passed on.
Sure. So what would be one of the remedies to like dump the water, to let go? Because I know a lot of people say, well, let that shit go. People say that a lot.
Yeah.
But for people like who have something memory gridlocked, like could, because it's part of their identity, part of who they think they are, they have to be. What do you say to help them let go of part of their identity?
Well, again, that's it's a process, at one, and there's no right or wrong to it. Um, I also think that, or feel that, a person has to be ready, you know. And so and I learned that on my own as well, through my own experiences. I realize I'm a Taurus. I'm stubborn. I nobody can tell me when,
Yeah.
but but I had to find that I got to a point where it was so uncomfortable, so painful, so like it was like, you know, I could get pretty crazy with this, but like, like you you're constipated, right? And you need to use the bathroom, and you can't. It's right on that edge, and you want to get it out, and it just
Yeah.
won't come out, and you want to get it out because it's hurting.
Right.
And you gotta work on that. And so I breathe and I find a way to release that shit,
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel good. But everybody has their own level of their, like,
Threshold. Yeah.
the threshold. How long can, so what do you do if you are ready? Well, I mean, that's the thing. There's beautiful tools out here. I mean, there's amazing tools out here that support people through that process. There's all kinds of, you got, I mean, not only with meditation, you got movement stuff that, nature is a wonderful way to get things out.
Did you say dance was really
Dance. Oh, I'm very much into,
therapeutic?
yeah, I love ecstatic conscious dance. So that's
Mhm.
where I find it has been the most transformational work for me. And I like it with people. I mean, of course, now with this social distancing thing, it's been a little bit more challenging, but we're getting back into that. But that's a big one. EFT, people love
Tapping.
tapping. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and definitely there's all kinds of other, I mean, I was just talking to someone about a trauma program. I forgot what they called it, but um there's a lot of, I mean, people talk therapy still and do all of that. They do talk therapy, but it's what feels good to your soul, like who what supports your well-being, that makes the difference, if
I
that's, I
agree.
mean, what's your question again, because I'm not sure if I really answered it, but I
Did
think
one is be gentle with yourself, because it's a
being gentle.
process, right?
It
So
is.
like if you're constipated, you can't force it out of you, like if you're
Mhm.
holding on to something. But
And
when you
forgiveness is huge.
subconsciously, yeah, if you consciously say, I'm gonna let go, then your body will do the work. Long as you are mentally admitting to saying, I'm going to try to let this go, right?
Yes.
And this sounds a little mystical, but the world around you will help you let go if you consciously put it out there. I want to
Yeah.
let this go. And then, but it's a process. And the next thing you said was, well, I asked about or we talk about dance. And I think practically the muscles or the organs hold on to the hormones, the chemicals that was released when you were feeling those emotions. So they're stored in your body. So when
Yeah.
you dance, you're moving the chemistry in your body, right? So naturally it's flowing around and then you
Yes.
release it, you know. And another way, so along that line, I think that's why fitness, working out, going
Mm,
for a walk, hiking, being around nature is
yes.
another way.
Grounding,
Yeah,
you know,
grounding, all of that,
yes.
swimming,
Yoga,
you know, all of that.
I mean, I know you love yoga too, and I do too, and I find it, but not everybody loves yoga. So what, yeah, whatever that releasing your body that feels good to you, and just what you
Yeah,
said, hormones, that dopamine, that the endorphins,
yeah,
all those feel good hormones, the serotonin kicking. I mean, those are things that have been critical for me because,
yeah,
you know, um, I realized I was prone to depression for various reasons because I had adopted certain conditions, patterns in my life.
hmm,
And so I had to create avenues that would elevate, and I'm still, creating that. But it isn't all in consciousness. It's how we think. Everything is totally, it really does go back to just how we think,
yeah, it
and I
is.
mean, that's a whole other conversation for later, but
Yeah.
I think that we're definitely starting to um, go into that world, do that dance of where it's exploring all these different ways that our consciousness you know um, can take us you know through these experiences in whatever way we choose.
Hmm.
And so it's a dance. Life is the dance, and and I love exploring it. And I was going to say too, lastly, emptying along the way, though. That's the beauty of elimination. I really do think shit is a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah,
Because it's in us. We have it to show us who we're not.
yeah,
It's again that yin yang balance, that yeah. And so um we have, when our bodies literally feel it, but even in just symbolically, when we know when we're filled up to the woody wood, like it's time because I'm about to lose my stuff, right?
right.
I am about to go there.
Yeah,
That's when you have to decide, how am I going to do this? Well, or even just being consciously like, what tools do I have before I go and let off steam on somebody else or hurt myself? What can I do to really get this shit out of me? Like,
hmm,
go sit your ass on the toilet. Okay. Literally, sometimes you might just need to do that. Like, you get angry at somebody, just go sit on the toilet and think about your shit.
yeah,
Okay. Think about it. I need to think about my shit. Okay.
right.
I sit there, and that will maybe take things down for a minute. It makes me process, because
Yeah,
then I don't feel that I'm like having to go out and react to someone, really. You know, I mean, if I could teach young people ways to deal with their
yeah, to
know,
cope.
quick reaction. Yeah,
Hmm.
to cope. Like, those are little things I would joke about, but I think it's so important because it all is a part of, because that shit is in us for a reason. And Mother Nature has given us the ability to eliminate. We
Right.
assimilate and eliminate, right?
Yeah, right.
And our body, I literally, that was a big part of my journey, was I was constantly constipated.
Yeah,
And my body was always telling me, okay, you've assimilated a lot of shit, you've taken in a lot, other
yeah,
people's stuff, other things, da 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 da. Now, when are you going to let it go?
right. That's
When
it.
you
I mean,
ready?
yeah, it makes
When you
sense.
ready to let
That
it go?
analogy makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I could not, I was holding on to it because I was, I didn't know. I didn't know that it was hurting me
Hmm.
that much.
Toxic.
And
It's very
I,
toxic to
yeah,
hold on to all
it
that.
is very toxic. So that's the thing I just want to encourage people to just really take the time to, find tools to create create tools to eliminate, to empty out, to let go, whatever, however you define it. It's just release. It's release, release, release. Because if it's not serving your highest good,
Mm-hmm.
which everybody deserves, it's our birthright to be happy. It is our birthright to be joyful. It is our birthright to be free, you
I,
know?
yeah.
And it's yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
time that we allow ourselves that, and we teach our children that. We
Good.
not even teach actually, we be the examples.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that it takes. Is if I'm an example to my child, then he will watch me, and he
Right.
will decide, oh, I see the way that my mother's rolling, you know, I like that. And she's learning how, she's teaching me how to, you know, to work this, and I can adopt some of this, or I can add, you know, I can find other tools that will support my well-being, you know, and it will allow me that release.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to give those opportunities to these young people, because that's where it's going to make the difference. Otherwise, we're going to
We're
have a
passing
lot
it
of
on. We're passing it on to them, you know, as
right.
they go through the journey of life.
Yes. Good question. Thank
So
you.
yeah, Michelle, what another amazing conversation.
Oh, it's so beautiful
Yeah.
always to be able to share with you. Thank you.
Yes. So how would our audience follow you, find you, and connect with you? I know you have a Facebook page.
Well, I have one, but I haven't been on it very well these days because I'm reinventing myself, and so, and my page, my Wellcare page, is still up currently, and it's I am Wellcare, um, and I am looking at in the next within the next couple months, you know, creating a new um, whole new um, vision for my business, as well as a page that, you know, social media that will reflect it. So yeah, over time. But thank you for allowing me to share this, you know, this, just to be able to process this with you, and it inspires me, and it gives me more you know, just like that energy to go out here and create this program.
Yeah. Same here. Thank you for sharing because it's, you know, edifying for me too. You know, I have a sister that is in a journey similar to mine. So
Ashe.
thank you.